The greatest Superman movie ever is going to release soon. It is quite a low bar, but then I realised we don't have a good Superman game to play. This got me into a deep thought, one of them being we got a Suicide Squad game before a Superman game. Even though I argue that the game was originally going to be a Superman game, this may be due to many reasons, but two of them being it was set in Metropolis and Lex Luthor was a main character in the game. When you look at the possibility of a Superman game, weirdly one of the main reasons we haven't got this is due to the gameplay. This little thing being that Superman is strong. Yeah, because video game characters known to be weak. It's looking more and more likely that we're not going to get a Superman game, so I thought I can try. Welcome back to Mumble Game. On today's Mumble, we tried to create a kind of concept and how a Superman game would work. But before that, remember to like and subscribe for future Mumbles and join the Rambling Horde. So without further ado, let's mumble about it. Okay, to start this off, we need to talk about the foundation, the things, what we will be doing. This being the gameplay. In many of these videos, we don't really talk much about the gameplay. The Last of Us Part 2 gameplay didn't really need changing. Mad Max 2 will be just like Mad Max 1, but with a, what's that thing called again, that system, the Nemesis system. But with the Superman game, the famous words of Stitch.
Lost.
After doing some minor kind of research on different games what have kind of this open world with a kind of similar moveset to what a Superman game would be, it doesn't seem like putting this into a Superman game would be that hard. If we have Spider-Man, web swinging and Hogwarts Legacy broom flying, there is a good sense of what a Superman game could play like, right? We shouldn't really be looking at the Arkham games here, as the traversal isn't really why you play a Batman game. It's never really been good for any Batman-ish game, I remember. Well, they did turn the Batmobile into a tank and kind of made it one of the most tedious and boring parts of the game, when the actual Batmobile was actually cool to drive. Yeah. This making the flying ability in game work as a simple broom mixed with spider swinging, turning it into something a bit less rigid and a bit more bouncy. What I'm thinking is Superman while in a dash flying mode, you glide, and it's like the crawl ability from Spider-Man where you can go on the walls, even though that was a bit funky. But you don't actually kind of touch it, you kind of just bounce off the building. You don't have like a Hulk kind of climb or the Spider-Man climb. You have a bounce off these buildings and you don't break them, because there was that automatic thing on the swinging in Spider-Man, because when you turned it off you couldn't swing when you did it manually. So in this you would have this kind of automated system where you would fly and kind of bounce off the buildings, like gliding off them, make it feel a lot more smoother. Then like Spider-Man, we would kind of use that kind of elements of that game as it kind of floats and everywhere, using this kind of jumpy element of Spider-Man, but it's more floaty like Superman, and we kind of integrate that into also a flying kind of ability, like he kind of floats on air and air is also his ground. If that makes any sense. They kind of do it in the Spider-Man games, and I think it can be used for a Superman game. Now we have one of the last things we need to talk about, the life bar, and the fact Superman should be able to die. With that, we go back to Superman Returns for a hot minute. Only a minute, don't worry. Even though I remember liking it back when I was 9 years old, but looking at the gameplay, I think 9-year-old me has some problems. There's a clear problem in this game though. It's Superman. Superman is the problem. In the game, they literally gave the problem of the man that can't be hurt the foundation of the game. Even though the concept of your life bar being the city is kind of fun, but you're focusing on your problem here. Instead, let's just make Superman killable, easy, fixed. Ship it. You know how many times I saw Superman die? A lot. He definitely can get hurt in a game. He has a life bar, and if it hits 0, Superman dies, and then like any other game, we respawn. Even though we are going to push over the point that he is technically bulletproof, because he's the Man of Steel and all that. Also, I want some elements of Clark in this as well, like Spider-Man and Peter Parker. Superman and Clark Kent are important for the character. It doesn't need to be the focus, as it wasn't really in Spider-Man 2 or 1, but I do need that little bit of gameplay as Clark Kent. I generally think Superman doesn't limit a game, and realistically, you have these amazing fights with these monsters, robots, and bounty hunters, and you can also have these intimate moments with civilians as you kind of save them. You save their lives, and that can be a great experience in game, but has never really been used to its full potential. Even though it could be annoying as playing as Lois Lane, I think it could kind of work later down the line. Like Superman 2, you kind of feel that kind of human civilian mindset of being alive in this world. Okay, let's get to the mustard on the pretzel of this video. Superman's favourite food, by the way. Fade to Superman. Fade in, a barn. We start this game in a farm. And you know what? Let's have a little dig at the Snyderverse. A tornado hits the farm. Alarms sound as we play Clark Kent, doing some clunky, like God of War-esque running around, helping out the farm, sees his father in the distance. Out there, away, just out of reach. He's not going to make it. What should Clark do? His father is too far away. He's going to die. No, he's Superman. He's not going to let his father die. Okay? This is where we switch the camera, press that button, and we fly. Simple. Because yes, Superman saves people. That's who Superman is, Snyder peeps. So I'm going to need a minute to calm down. Give me a minute.
Wow, you have the greenest eyes.
We cut to the camera going through the office, we see the building and we see Clark Kent in a normal day at work. Until there's a breaking news type thing comes in from no other than Lois Lane. Breaking news, a robbery with Metropolis PD has raised to a standoff. Clark sees this, jumps into action, but we have to physically leave the building, go through the elevator in an awkward kind of situation and run into an alley to get into a proper classic suit up. You know what I mean? The classic Superman suit up. We need that feeling at the start. Like that Spider-Man when he jumped out the window and you had that kind of cool music when he did it. I want this with Superman. And you start hearing this Superman theme. Bum, bada bum, 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 bum. I can't remember the theme off the top of my head, but I think it's close to that. If it's not, we're obviously not going to do this every single time Superman or Clark Kent suits up, but I think it is good, at least for the first time, as it kind of has that cemented feeling between both characters, or kind of being one character, but you see him as a human and as this Superman. I think that is needed for any kind of Superman story. Well, not a comic. A comic can do that, but I think any Superman story needs to be grounded with Clark Kent and changing, physically changing, going out your way to do the change would be a great element for the start of the game. And I think it would be quite cool if you could just kind of go into any kind of, what do they call, phone box or something like that, and just change at any point. Just a little Easter egg to the classics. After this, we get a first look at the gameplay, where we fly to the robbery, fight the robbers, taking no damage because they're using bullets. The gameplay is kind of grounded here. As I mentioned, the combat is kind of floaty, and has a kind of two modes, more grounded combat, and in the air combat, kind of taking inspiration from Spider-Man, not Arkham Knight. It could take more inspiration from Arkham Knight at the ground combat, but it needs that flying combat. Even though Spider-Man wasn't great at the swinging combat either, we need that kind of flying combat in Superman to be near perfect to make it feel not clunky. Then a truck smashes through the blockade backwards. The doors fling open and you see a massive gun. Superman says, "Ha! Bigger doesn't always mean better." Though that's not my greatest Superman accent. But anyway, then the gun powers up, Superman flies to it, but it launches and a sound hits Superman and he rails in pain, falling to the ground, and this leads to a fight that shows that Superman can be hurt. Superman beats the villain, what turns out to be the Intergang, a gang of criminals that are usually supplied weapons by Darkseid shenanigans. However, this might not be the case this time around. This starts the adventurous Superman trying to take down a gang that can hurt him. After this, we see a cleanup crew run by a familiar company called LexCorp, being very careful with the blood spilled by Superman in this fight. Is it LexCorp or LexCorp? It doesn't matter. We go through different kind of events. We meet some new character enemy types with different weapons that also can hurt Superman as we kind of continue just helping the public. In this game, the Intergang are pretty new and with a big backer have grown quickly, but through his news guy skills, he leads his way to the head honcho, once icon turned gang leader, Henshaw. Okay, this is massively different to the comic kind of Hank Shaw, but I do think they change it now and again in the comics. I'm not 100% on that, but still, I think it kind of adds that extra element. Instead of astronaut to cyber Superman, we go from astronaut gang leader to cyber Superman, adding this extra layer of content to a Hank Shaw story. As it kind of shows, this astronaut has been thrown away, this icon of Metropolis has been thrown away for an actual alien. You can just go out of space whenever you like. We go toe to toe with himself and his other gang members. Superman doesn't kill, he's Superman. He doesn't kill people, he saves people. He has defeated Hank Shaw, and with it he screams, "You did this to me! You did this to me! I was loved by the people, like you!" Pointing and screaming as saber breaks through his chest. Superman launches forward but is shot with some sort of magic, freezing him while pushing him out the window. We cut back to gameplay and Superman is falling at great speed towards civilians. If he hits the ground, a lot of people could die. Here we get a prompt. As we hit, we release a massive amount of air, flinging right into the ocean or river, whatever Metropolis has, it has some sort of large water next to it, doesn't it? That's it. It does now anyway. And that's where we end up. And this is how we unlock the iconic Cold Breath. These magic users are the gang that basically ran Metropolis before the Intergang moved in, the Dark Dawn, a group of magic users that have been a thorn in Superman's side for a long time, but have thought to be disbanded. After this, we see another scene of LexCorp, whatever it is, cleaning up the crime scene, taking Hank Shaw's body. We go through this vein of this magic group and then we find out more about them. We come across these summoning circles that keep summoning different monsters that we have to fight, some even being familiar to long-time DC fans, maybe hinting at the future game in this series. We continue through the layers of the Dawn, finding out more stories of what they are and what they are doing, and come across a familiar face to many Flash fans. We find a familiar ape, Grodd, and Superman kind of knows who Grodd is and kind of knows who the Flash is as well. The Justice League hasn't been made yet, maybe it will be down the future, but not yet. But they know each other, they know who they are. And it actually turns out the Dawn thought Grodd was from a different universe and could be used to get their god back. That's what they're trying to do. They're trying to like resurrect or bring their god to Earth. That's their aim. And it turns out Grodd isn't from another universe, he's just super smart and all of his origin. I'm not going into it here. Instead, they just got annoyed and just used him as a snack for possibly the summoning of a god. We leave with Grodd, but behind Superman, the building explodes with what looks to be a kaiju. This leads to a fight with a kaiju, and after defeating this part of the city is destroyed with damage now lasting for the rest of the game. Kind of like the Sandman fight in Spider-Man 2 at the beginning. Grodd escapes, and this then leads to a phone call from Lois asking if you're going to be back for dinner. You happily, leisurely fly back to your apartment, but is grabbed by a hook and it throws you. This is Lobo. This part of the side quest that leads to multiple fights with Lobo and trying to understand why this character is trying to constantly kill Superman. And you obviously find out that he's a bounty hunter and he's been hired by someone. Alongside this, I think another kind of side quest thing could be Toymaker. It would lead to a pretty good side quest kind of leaning towards these kind of lesser known villains, maybe changing them up slightly, making them more imposing forces in the game later down the line. We finally get to have that dinner with Lois, watching the news because obviously work is never done. Breaking news: Lex Luthor speaks out about the destruction of the city and the Intergang and how Superman is the fault of it all. This is where we see Lex Luthor for the first time on a news kind of show, kind of doing a smear campaign on Superman, saying that he is the fault for all the destruction, and shows pictures of him with Grodd and says that he is kind of friends or working with other supervillains. And obviously Grodd just disappears. And with the arrival of Lex, it marks Act 2. In this part, we go through a kind of mundane saving things for a bit, but crowds are starting to shout at Superman, throwing things at him. You fly close to the ground, they throw stuff at you. And then as Clark, he is forced to write negative things about himself, Superman. Then as Superman, you continue, but as you continue, you are attacked by someone who looks like you. You fight and the flesh starts to come off, revealing a metal skull. This being is Hank Shaw, the cyborg Superman, raised from the dead by Lex Luthor himself, with him not having an S on his chest, but instead a weird looking L that doesn't really look like an L. You know, the logo of Lex Luthor and a lot of things, it looks a bit weird. In some it looks okay. We beat the cyborg Superman, revealing that he is Hank Shaw, but as we do, the crowd blame us and cheer this new Superman. This is where we go back to Clark. We're watching what is happening with Lois rushing in and saying that she has a lead to prove that Lex is behind all of this. He supplied the weapons to the Intergang to start the gang war. He translated the tombs as summoning for the Dark Dawn, playing both sides. And also this new Lexman is the former gang lord of the Intergang. Okay, this is where I would say we play as Lois, but I didn't really want that as I didn't like that in Spider-Man 2, but I wrote myself into a corner, so this is where we do that. We sneak through LexCorp and kind of find information on Lex Luthor and what he's up to, and we find it. But at the end is caught by Lex Luthor's agents, prompting bum. Ba-da-bum, bum, 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 bum. Ba-da-bum, bum, 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 bum. Is it a bird? Is it a plane? No, it's Superman! Going to save Lois Lane from LexCorp, as obviously she knows too much to live. This is where we throw down with Lex Luthor, as you can't make a Superman one without actually fighting Lex Luthor. It just doesn't make sense. If we fought Joker in Arkham Asylum, we have to fight Luthor in Superman. New Legacy. I don't know, that's a good name. New Legacy. It also shows how manipulative Lex Luthor is. Now we go through Metropolis, now against him as he goes through the city. Why are you wearing your underpants outside, doofus? Wear Nike's undies. Get a haircut. What are you doing with your arm when you fly? He is attacked by LexCorp's agents suited up to take down Superman, leading to a fight with some supes inspired by the group in Marvel. We don't really know any of these supes. They are minor with just some Easter eggs, with even one of them being an unnamed lantern, hopefully hinting at a future game. We go to LexCorp and try to save Lois, but we are ambushed by the upgraded cyborg Superman. The upgrades include some sort of magic from the Dark Dawn and seems to be elements of the kaiju battle from before. We go through this fight and we see this new Superman destroy different elements of the city, but Superman goes out his way to save the different parts of the city in like a quick time event. Through this, each one, Superman gets hurt by the cyborg, and we continue this fight, and it is shown actually in the health bar that we are getting hurt by saving people through successful QuickTime events. This showing how Superman will sacrifice himself for the people. We defeat Cyborg Superman again, what looks to be the final time. The crowd is watching on and cheers begin to start for Superman, with Lex looking enraged, saying, "They cheer this monster, that will be our destruction, fine." Lex Luthor disappears with Superman saving Lois, getting her out of the way. The news catching up with him, Lois gives him an interview and we see through the camera his interview between both of them. Lex Luthor is now in his Ultra suit and he attacks Superman on camera, and we see it through this camera, throwing him through buildings showing his true colours. Superman throws him into the air to get him out of any harm's way of the public. We fight him in the air in front of everyone, but the public have seen that Lex Luthor is destroying things where Superman has tried to fix them. In the end, we have Lex on the ropes, but as a villain does, he's beaten, but he laughs in the face of Superman. They will never love you again. Superman begins to fly away as the crowd start to cheer. He stops for a moment to see that this is not for Lex getting up, this is for him. And as Lex gets up, they boo him. The tide has changed throughout the story. Superman is the hero again, Lex is the villain. We end the story with Superman and Lois embracing, and a news story in the background explaining all the things Lex has done, basically taking all the tarnish off Superman's name, and this kind of ending the Superman game. In the end, I think this game kind of lets the emotion flow from Clark Kent and Superman, how he feels about Lois, the world, and his city, and the civilians. Kind of shows what he's like when he is in pain, when he is in trouble. There's so many different elements of the Superman character that really aren't explored much in different elements, and I think they kind of hide from that in past games, and I think this could evolve a lot of different elements, what we will possibly see in the new film, and it could be used in this. I highly think that we will probably get a new game with James Gunn at the helm, because he's probably a big gamer. I think he worked in games at the beginning, so it's very likely, and it's very, very, very likely that he will have some inkling of insight and kind of influence on the game. And looking at the movie, it's going to have some similarities, and this obviously did. But what do you think? Comment below your thoughts. Would you play this game? Would you skip it? Would you wait for it to be reduction of the price? Comment below your thoughts. Like and subscribe for future mumbles, and join the Rambling Horde, and I will see you on the next mumble.